Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Gardener. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. So guys, today we are going to be talking about what exactly is full sun and partial shade, because succulents do love full sun and partial shade. Now guys, you need to understand over here, this is just an example that I'm giving. Now you can see this line over here. Now this is the partial shade and this is full sun. Now this is what I usually tend to do, but I do not move my succulents. My succulents are in the same place. The only thing what happens is that they are placed in such a location that the moment they get a good amount of morning direct sunlight for 5 to 6 hours, automatically, because of the structure, they start getting indirect, or they would be getting partial shade during the afternoons. So they get full amount of morning direct sunlight with a full blast of morning direct sunlight, and as it starts getting noon, as it becomes 11:30, 12 noon, automatically the wall that is placed next to it, under it, it starts to cover it up post 12 noon. So this is how I keep my succulents. Now the best thing about this is I do not need to move my succulent. This is just an example that I'm giving you. I do not have to move my succulent because automatically once it's 12 noon, the sun tends to go behind the roof and then the succulent tends to get partial shade. But there is a good amount of light. As you can see, there is a good amount of bright light around the succulent. But at the same time, the succulent also tends to get a good amount of morning direct sunlight for 5 to 6 hours. Without moving the succulent, it automatically gets partial shade because of the roof. It gets its desired amount of 5 to 6 hours of morning direct sunlight, and then it starts getting this shade after 12 noon. So this is how it tends to work out. Now let's say that you only receive afternoon sunlight. So what you can do is you can keep it a little bit closer to this light. Even if you're going to keep it like this, the succulent will still do quite well. It is not going to stretch because this amount of light is more than enough for a succulent to grow healthy and keep colored. Now let's say this is the only afternoon sunlight that you tend to receive, and you have no other option. You do not have any shade like this. This is the only afternoon sunlight that you receive. Then you will have to use some kind of a shade net over it like this, so that the succulent does not get burnt in the afternoon sunlight. You'll have to use a shade cloth or a shade net or anything that can filter and give you the light. Let me check if I have something around. So now you only have few options, like you can use a shade cloth or a green net in order to give a filtered light, or there is something called as a polycarbonate sheet, which is like this. It is kind of not completely transparent, but it is not completely opaque. As you can see, the moment I am going to keep it on it, a very dappled kind of a sunlight, as you can see this. So you can try this as well. This tends to work out really well. This is basically a polycarbonate sheet, but it is very lightweight. It is not completely transparent, so it does not put out that direct sunlight, but it gives a very diffused and dappled sunlight, and which tends to work out really well for our succulents. So if you tend to receive only afternoon direct sunlight, then probably you can use this polycarbonate sheet, or you can even use a green shade cloth. This is not completely transparent. It is kind of opaque. So what happens is, the moment you're going to put this across wherever you want to place your succulents, and you can see if you just place it around, it gives a very dappled and bright light. You can see the amount of shade that it tends to put out, but it's not completely shaded, but it tends to give a very dappled and filtered sunlight, and this is going to work out really well. Your succulents will stay colored under this because it tends to give a good amount of diffused light. At the same time, it does not give any direct sunlight. So you have your full afternoon sunlight, you put this sheet, and then you have your filtered afternoon sunlight. So this is going to be the safest way. Your succulent is not going to get burnt if you're going to use a material like this, because it tends to give a very dappled sunlight. Now the reason why we are doing all this is because, remember guys, I have heard people saying that they keep their succulents out in morning direct sunlight for 5 to 6 hours, or let's say for 2 to 3 hours, and then they get their succulent back again in indirect bright light. And trust me guys, they tend to do this every single day. If you're going to do this every single day, moving your succulent every now and then, this is definitely going to hamper your succulent growth. Your succulent will start to get unhealthy. It will start looking sick if you are going to move your succulent quite often. That's the reason why I have placed my succulents in such a way that it gets a good amount of morning direct sunlight for 5 to 6 hours, and then there is the roof that tends to cover it up, as and when there is afternoon sunlight. So post 12 my succulents are like this, morning the succulents are like this. So you need to ensure that you do a very less movement of the pot. Let the succulents be in one position. If you keep moving it, then that is definitely going to hamper your succulent. So guys, I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe and keep propagating.